turns our thoughts to the places and people we love. And to Indiana values like loyalty, hard work, self-reliance, genuineness, and gratitude. When you live by these values, you're Indiana made. We're proud to serve the people who put us at the heart of their neighborhoods. And we're dedicated to the Indiana values we share and to providing an experience that will make you dedicated to us. Strachan Van Til is Indiana's grocery store, and we're Indiana made.
294 around the city looks good. 80 going east and west looks good. Bishop Ford, Dan Ryan, Skyway Toll Road, Klein Avenue Bridge. Hey, man, save 10 miles. How's that sound? And then also the weather, it's kind of gray out today. If you're watching on Jed TV, download the Jed TV app and you'll be able to see it right there. And it's a lot grayer than it has been, but it's still beautiful out. You know what I mean? All right, let's do a test. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Is the newly elected head of the Democratic Party in Lake County there? Can I get a 1 2 3 out of you?
Yeah, 1 2 3, Jim.
How's your voice this morning?
Me? Yeah, a little scratchy. How's it sound? Okay, like that?
Yeah. How is it in your ears?
Yeah, sounds great.
Jim Weiser, let's just get this out of the way. This is sponsored by the Lake County Democratic Party. And Jim Weiser is the chairman before, and it looks like he's the chairman going ahead. And to put this into context, the last time Mr. Weiser was here, I told him that after he loses on Saturday that I would have a spot for him here because there's not a lot of guys that can carry themselves and know all of the players and all the minefields. Dave Kuziak can do it. Tom Dabber can do it. And then past that, maybe Andy Quinnell can do it once in a while. But past that, there's not that many people that know that I would trust. And that is Jim Weiser. And I offered him, hey, man, when you're not the chairman anymore, then you could sit in for me. You won resoundingly, and I was wrong. And you were right to look me in the eye and say, why are you saying that, Jim? So here is me eating crow live on the radio, and it just doesn't taste all that good. But, Jim, congratulations on your victory.
Oh, thanks, Jim. I appreciate that. It was really, it was a victory for the whole. I mean, it was really a victory for the party. We spent 4 years crafting a solid organization, starting with the city and town chairman, great people that are there, and then working on down through the organization. And we had a lot of obstacles to encounter. We had to, primarily, we had to endure the consolidation of precincts, where the Republican legislature targeted Lake County and reduced the number of precincts that we had in an effort to reduce our effectiveness. And they found out to the contrary that it didn't do that, and that's because we've got good folks. And I think everybody realized it was a collaborative effort, and we were working together. And I felt all along really good about it. You never know. You never know when you go into any kind of an election how it's going to turn out. But it proved that the hard work and the effort that we put in over the prior 4 years paid dividends, and I was fortunate enough to be successful. Although I'll tell you, it was a tough choice, man, coming in here and doing a show and getting paid big bucks versus volunteering for the Democratic Party. I had to balance that kind of stuff, Jim. And I would have loved to done. You know that I'd loved to done a show with you, but I'll carry on for the next 4. Not with you, but in place of you.
In place of me. Part of the problem is in finding people to do these shows. I can't go too young in the morning because these guys don't know where the minefields are. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And someone has to know who the players are and, kind of what the culture is and still be reasonably entertaining and that. And you certainly fit the bill on that. And and Democratic Party's gain is our loss. And not only that, you have a sufficient amount of enemies that they'll listen along with your friends, and that always helps. You got to have enemies so that they're taking shots at you, and I certainly have those, and so do you.
Yeah, it's just part of it's part of the game and part of the process. When you have to make difficult and tough decisions, there's going to be some pushback and there's going to be some opposition, but overall, it's worked out really well.
Jim Weiser, Lake County Democratic Chairman, and continuing to be, what is that, 4-year or 2-year?
4-year.
4-year term. So if you'd like to talk to him, 219-845-1100. Jim, this is not the first time. I mean, I was just kind of ribbing you about that. As you well know, it was good-natured fun.
Yeah.
But I was critical of you, and it was not good-natured fun. And that was a few years ago when I said on a regular basis, I'm here every day on this campus. I see young people all the time. I said, your party didn't have, in my mind, your party had very little to attract young people, even though they were there and ready to do it, and you weren't able to grab that energy amongst people in their 20s, maybe even into their 30s, even into their 40s. And I'm not eating crow on this. It was a criticism because I want every party to be stronger and better, but that's changed. And you do have a lot of young people making calls. I think the Frank Mervan thing was based on a lot of young people and that victory. Jim, I will give you that. Your energy has changed, and it probably contributed to your victory. What's changed, and why did it change?
Well, you bring up a good point. I remember your criticism, and it was, in hindsight, it's tough to get that kind of criticism right when you become the chairman. But in hindsight, it was very accurate. And one of the things in the part, well, someone asked me the other day, well, what does a party chairman do? And, sometimes you have to step back and say, wait, you got to get to the basics here. What do I do? But it specifically says in the party rules, one of the primary obligations of a chairman is to recruit candidates and to recruit people into the party. And I really, and literally, and I have you partially to thank, because I took that to heart, what you said. And I said, I've got to do that. I've got to shift a little bit of focus. We had issues. We had some financial issues when I first came into the party, and there were some other organizational issues, and that had to be addressed. But at the same hand, we needed to go out and get candidates, and we needed to get younger. We needed to get new faces, not necessarily younger, but new ones with energy and excitement and passion. And that's what I focused on. And I think of the irony. I was fortunately elected on Saturday, and there's a lot that goes on after that. You're getting calls and texts, and then all of a sudden you move right into the first district congressional selections, and I'm dealing with people across the state on that on Sunday, but on Monday evening I'm sitting in Traditions at 6:00 recruiting a young guy who had reached out through one of our city and town chairmen and said, man, I want to get involved. I've been around in the community. I think I know some stuff, and I'd like to take a look at getting involved in the Democratic Party. And there I was, within 48 hours, helping to recruit somebody to our party who may eventually be a potential leader in the party or a candidate for office or something. So that's really where it's all at. And it's a lot of hard work. I mean, it's not, they don't just materialize. You get, it's like anything else. It's almost like business. You get a lead, you want to sell a product, you get a lead and you want to go somewhere. Same kind of situation. I just find out, I fortunately, like you said, having been around for a while, know a lot of the leaders in the communities, whether they're governmental leaders, whether they're business leaders, whatever it might be. And if they say to me, hey, I know someone, or hey, we want to do something, that's when I respond. So that's kind of how. And plus, in addition, that wasn't just me. I don't want people to think it was just me. But if you're leading, you need to lead by example. And it became kind of infectious. And the city and town chairman, who I met with regularly, they start going out and looking for people, and they start getting a little bit excited about it. And before you know it, you've kind of got a snowball effect, and you end up getting solid, good people involved in the party and great candidates who've become really good elected officials.
219-845-1100. I got plenty of follow-ups for that, but I want to hear from you, and you guys get to talk at the newly re-elected Lake County Democratic Chairman. That is Jim Weiser. Hey, you're on the air. Go ahead.
I'm going to give you the best compliment you ever had in your life, Jim, coming from MX. I seriously think you're the better candidate, and I've never caught you in any kind of a lie like your opponent. But you know what? You did leave a job open. a job opening down at WJOB, and I do cut videos and make memes, and I'm available for you, Jed. You just have to get me up some good rice or something. You know what I mean?
Listen, I need to hand the reins. When I leave here and I'm not here and I go to Florida or something, I have to hand over this beautiful, pure piece to someone that I know is going to respect the institution, okay? Tom Dabberton, Dave Kuziak, there's a couple of others, but Dabberton got a job in Chicago. That just leaves Kuziak, okay? I love you like a brother there, MX, but I know that you can definitely ride a horse into areas you don't need to go. I can't hand it over to you. I can't.
I knew you were going to bring that up. I'll park it outside. Let me just ask Jimmy a few questions, right?
All right, go ahead.
Okay, Jimmy.
Sure, Max.
Who went after Hoffa, a Democrat, right? Kennedy?
Listen, we got to move on. We got other people. Stop. All right, 219-845-1100. Hey, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, good morning and congratulations, Mr. Weiser. How are you?
Hey, Joe. Good. Or Bill. I never know which name to call you now.
There's a national issue out there with thousands of destitute Hispanic children at our border. I think there's a simple answer. Our cardinals and bishops and priests have preached for years about the plight of young children like these. And even the Pope Francis himself stated last week they are our brothers and sisters that have gone on the road in search of a new life that we cannot take away from them, but instead work with them for achievement. Well, why not make every Catholic diocese and parish a sanctuary one, and let's take these kids in and practice what we preach is holy way to
Hey, Joe, thank you. Okay. Thank you. Let's leave it right there. Typically, we talk about local stuff, but it is somewhat of a local issue. Let's frame it like this. This is a pretty heavy immigrant area. We all know that. It's always been Eastern European mostly, and a lot of black migration from the South to work up here in the mills and stuff. But there's a lot of Hispanics, and that is a growing population here in Northwest Indiana. How does that affect your job?
That's a pretty interesting question. I guess it affects my job in that I didn't realize, and I like to think that I try to stay abreast of all issues and research them and study them and try to understand them. I don't think I understood the cultural impact with the Hispanic population that was drawn out by the former president, and how he was able to win a significant number of folks in the Hispanic community, how to win them over. And I think I've learned a lot from that. We have some incredible Hispanic leaders in our community. I mean,
we got one tomorrow. He's starting his show up, Adrian Santos.
I was just going to say.
He's definitely up and coming, and he's got the tools.
Yeah, all you had to do was go to the North Township Trustees Caucus to see that demonstrated, to see the strength of the Hispanic leadership that exists in our party, particularly emanating out of the city of East Chicago. And Adrian, you're right. They put together a nice coalition. They worked it hard. Adrian's a wonderful, delightful guy who I think is going to do, as he said, big shoes to fill. But he can do it.
Adrian, if he keeps his sense of humor in check, because you well know that he could have doubled as a stand-up comedian, but those communication abilities across all races and all things puts him at kind of the core of what's going on.
It does.
But you have to capture that Hispanic population. How are you going to do it?
Well, I think that we're getting a lot of help right now from, and you mentioned we try to do things locally when Joe was talking. I think we're getting a lot of help from the Biden administration. I think we're getting a ton of help. I think the focus of the stimulus bill is incredibly important. I think that they're going to make the appropriate issue of immigration at the head of the charts, and I think people will begin to realize that here, especially here in Northwest Indiana, the Hispanic community is so important it's important to our economy. That's where it's really important, but it's also important to my party. And we have a number of folks that are in the party now that are achieving levels of success, and they will continue to achieve levels of success. And part of what I hope I can do is, when leadership positions become available, look at that community and say, okay, like there was Adrian. We did the city clerks. And then, of course, when Adrian left the city, we had to do a caucus for the city clerk.
That's Medina, right?
And that's Rich Medina.
Yeah,
now,
so another Hispanic.
Now, another Hispanic. Rich has been around a long time, has a lot of institutional knowledge. We had some great conversations that morning, Rich and I did. And
you got calls. So
oh, okay, go ahead. And so in any event, I think that's what we'll do. That's what we will just reach right into that community.
Have you taken any Spanish lessons?
See. No, I actually, I'm. It's passable.
219-845-1100. Hey, you're on the air. How are you?
Yeah, good. I think he's doing a great job. I think, I think the Times doesn't do you any favors because they talked about the sour grapes of that lady with that election for the township, and if they're hands-on for the prior chairman, we didn't know you had financial difficulties. I wrote you a little letter. I wanted to run for that Wicker Park thing, but you never got back to me. But just keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing it.
Thank you. I will do that.
219-845-1100. Well, it's your time right now. I think he brings something up. Someone wants to get involved in the party, maybe run in their city or town. This is your time. I'm not endorsing for you to go to him, but it is. How do they do that?
Well, there's a couple ways you could do that. You can reach out to your I strongly recommend that you find out who your precinct committee person is and reach out to that individual. We have a lot of hardworking, good precinct committee persons all across the county, and reach out to them. Reach out to an elected official in your community. But always you can reach out to myself as chairman of the party. I apologize to the caller. I don't recall that, but I'm usually pretty good at responding. Michelle Feynman was returned as our vice chairperson. She won. She's the election administrator. You reach out to her. She's a wealth of information. Christine Sid, and by the way, there we have Christine Sid, who's the secretary of our party, Hispanic, county councilwoman from East Chicago. Reach out to Christine and Peggy Halinga Katona, our treasurer. You can reach out to any of us. Our phone numbers are published, and our addresses are published, and we'll guide you and we'll help you. But I really think start at that lower level. Get to that committee person. Get to that elected official in your community that you think that you know or feel comfortable you could talk to.
219-845-1100. Hey, you're on the air with Jim Weiser.
Hi, Jed. Hey, Jim. Congratulations.
Hey, listen, I know you. You're not. You respect the institution, and I know Weiser. So I am going to turn my mic off, and I'm going to go to the bathroom, and you and him are going to talk till I come back. So don't swear.
I'm not going to swear.
I think he was talking to me. Go ahead.
Well, Jim, congratulations. You want to know you're reconfirmed as the party chair, which is great. You had like any business, right? There's successes and downfalls. So I mean, during your reign, you gained some seats and then lost seats, and that's just the way the game's played, right?
Yep, no doubt.
But you did make inroads in South County, which is a big deal for Democrats to make those inroads in South County, and you did an excellent job. I think the easiest softball question is, you've always had some sort of you always have goals and a punch list, right?
Sure.
What is the number two thing, since you're chairman again, what is the two things you want to concentrate on mostly? You always want to sustain the party north of 8094. What's your plan south of 8094?
Good question. The plan south of, I try, and I'm not, I'm not trying to be overly political here, but I try to. I certainly try to balance it. I don't ever. I try desperately not to think of Lake County as north and south. Sometimes it's just inevitable. You have to, because there's significant differences in those cultures. But in South County, I'll tell you what the key to me is. The key to me is that we have to develop a plan and a ground game, particularly in South County. And I think the perfect model is what they did in Georgia. I think that is going to help us out here, and we've already reached out and gotten a lot of information. The second thing that is really critical is who will be our next state chairman. Right. Because our state chairman isn't running again. We have two highly qualified people, Mike Schmull, who was Pete Buttigieg's campaign manager and chief of staff, young guy, dynamic organizer, national contacts, brings a heck of a lot to the table. I was on the phone with Mike several times yesterday, and Trish Whitcomb, who's also a wonderful person, been a hard worker in the Democratic Party for years, although her father, ironically enough, was a Republican governor. But Trish Whitcomb, and I talked to Mike yesterday. And our last conversation.
Hold on a second. Hey, yeah. Dave, thank you for holding the fort. I'm going to let you go. Thanks. Go ahead, Jim. And then you got to move it because there are other people that want to talk.
So I talked to Mike about bringing in a field organizer in Lake County, Indiana, 24/7, 365 days a year. Not at Labor Day, not to run to November. Someone that can be here from the get-go and help us organize voter registration, voter education, recruiting candidates, doing all the things that you need to do. So that's where my priorities are right now.
219-845-1100. And on this exact show, we have, I don't know, maybe 6-7 minutes, but we may go past that a little bit. Hey, you're on the air. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Jim.
Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing okay.
Cool. I just wanted to say good morning.
Just wanted
to
say
sound different.
Well, I do?
Yeah.
I hope in a positive way. I hope in a good way.
That's not Jim. This is not Jim.
Thank you. I appreciate it. She said, good morning, Jim.
Oh, to you.
To me, dude. Relax, all right?
Okay, sorry about that.
That's what happens with Lake County politicians.
It's my show.
The sun revolves around them.
It's my show, man.
219-845. Hi, Jackie. It's good to hear from you. We're talking to Jim Weiser on the Lake County Democratic Party show, paid for by the Central Committee. 219-845-1100. Hey, how are you?
Good morning, gentlemen. Top of the day, and a happy St. Patrick's Day to you, my friends.
Hey, hello there, Ernie.
You know where I can get a good waterbed?
Heads up, waterbed. Men and women's waterbed boutique.
How about
anyway?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jim.
I wanted to say, do you know where I can get a good waterbed and then maybe like a Middle Eastern bog?
Yeah. You can get all of that, flavored papers and such at Heads Up Waterbed Boutique.
Until the feds had to put their nose in that, it was quite the institution. But anyways, what's going on?
Moving right along. And having said all that and being nostalgic and such, just real quick, for Jim, we go way back to the Young Democrats. I'm going to throw some names out. Drozda, Tony Trepane, Mike Bosch, Mike Panos, and of course Jim Weiser, Van Til, myself. We all go back, and I think John Krupa was the county chairman at that time.
That's true. Chicago. That's true.
So, but Jim, congratulations to you and your entire team. You got a great team, a lot of experience there, and of course, I know everyone personally. As a precinct committeeman in Hammond, next year is my 50th year as a committeeman in Hammond, and I'm honored, and it's a privilege to serve the Democratic Party and citizens of Lake County. So, with that, I just want to say hey to Jim and the staff at WJOB for everything they do, and leave it with congratulations to you, Jim, and your entire team.
He meant me.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And then you.
I
All
know.
right, thanks a lot. Hey, let's go ahead.
Well, let me just say, hey, Ernie, first of all, thanks. Second, I was aware that you're going to be going on your 50th year as a committeeman, and there's going to be something in the future regarding that in our party. But let me just say something. There's an example. There's an example of a Democrat who isn't just a Democrat in name. There's a guy who's worked, a veteran who's worked for our party tirelessly. I had the honor, when I was the president of the county council, to name Ernie as our representative to the then, at that time, Convention and Tourism Bureau. And I appointed Ernie. He did a phenomenal job for many, many years. And that's what we're talking about, Jim. Those are the kind of people that make our party successful.
He is Jim Weiser. All right, let's. I don't know. I think we're right about on the time. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go into non-Democratic Party time. And Jim, do you agree to that? You keep going without it being your paid time. So I'll get a little. I'll get a little more aggressive.
Yeah, I've got a meeting at 9,
right,
but I've got time.
There's one question I wanted to ask you, basically outside of your paid time.
Okay.
Is this? When I was critical of you about where is the youth in your party, and I was pretty direct about it, being on this campus, you see all the young people coming and going right now. I talked to all of them. A lot of them aren't used to having an adult talk to them, and they think I'm some sort of weirdo. But over time, they see you enough and say, hey, man, I ask them questions. And then I have all these people that work for me. 4 years ago, when you started this thing, I said, hey, man, your party, there's nothing going on. But it wasn't just to you. That was to Dan Darnell also. And I hit him pretty hard. He did not have the energy, and there's a lot of young conservatives that don't know how to get involved. And what are you doing? Both of you guys have done a good job, to be honest with you, and we're fortunate to have people at the head of both parties. First of all, I've known both of them. I've known Dan for 50 years, and he has attracted and has gained a momentum. You saw the numbers in the last election. I think it used to be 70-30 down here, and that's what Mitch Daniels used to get kind of miffed about. He goes, man, I don't care what I do. It's still 70-30 in Lake County. And then he got kind of mad and whatever. But the last one was more like 56-44 in terms of 56 Democrat in Lake County and then 44 Republican. By almost every measure, Republicans are gaining a foothold here in Lake County. What are you going to do about that?
Well, I touched on a few things before about when I was asked what my priorities were. I think one way that we counter that is by developing a robust ground game. And that's point number one. I think point number two is I strongly believe that in light of what's transpired very recently, as evidenced by our congressman on national TV, that we will be welcoming labor back home. They're going to be coming back home to the Democratic Party. I'm not suggesting they're coming back home in droves, but they're going to come back home because they're going to understand that the Democrats focus on the working class and the working man and the unions and the right to work and everything that we want to focus on. So I think that we could take advantage of that.
Thank you, Mr.
Oops.
I'm going to play that in a second. I'm getting it set, so go ahead.
Okay.
Look at it this way.
Yeah.
All right, keep going, and then I have a follow-up.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
I was fortunate enough after our congressman appeared on TV yesterday to be able to talk to him. He actually called me, and we talked for probably about 15 minutes on this very issue. And we talked about how we need to move forward and how we can, and I'll tell you what, it takes a village, I guess, but we need new direction in the state of Indiana. In this case, in terms of building our party back up, the state party has to become significant and relevant again. I mean, we've always been relevant in Lake County. We've taken our lumps a little bit, but the state party was losing its relevancy. With a person like Mike Schmull, we will become relevant immediately, and we will become funded, and we will become organized. And I think that's critically important to regain our numbers. I don't ever think that the number 70-30 was always a bit of an exaggeration. It was really always closer to 65-35. But be that as it may, there's a slippage. There's no question about it. And we can gain that back, and we will gain that back. I'm confident.
You know, there's a clip I was looking for, and that is I didn't expect that answer. So you're saying that you are aiming or hoping for some sort of a return to your party from organized labor. I did not expect that. I thought, honestly, I thought the answer would be, you know, there's a lot of people moving in from Illinois that have been tarnished by the Democratic leadership over there, and they might, you know, they're coming into South County, and we have to, you know, give them a refreshing attitude toward Democratic politics. Typically, I'm like you. I ask a question, I pretty much think I know what the answer is going to be, and you completely surprised me with saying that labor is going to flip back over. Because I agree with you. I would say up to half of some of these trade unions voted for Trump.
Yep.
And I don't.
Oh, yeah.
It might be more.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the focus, that's what I'm saying. I know we try to keep things at a local level, but what they've done in this relief package, what the Biden administration has done as it impacts Northwest Indiana is almost incalculable, because it's focused on and it's targeted to working class and middle class, and it's obvious. In addition to the labor bill that I heard you talking about before I came in, think about the pension funding that's going into this plan for all those, you know, those guys and those ladies that went out there and busted their butts and worked hard on construction programs and on building and you know all the trades and you know, let's say, or even the Teamsters, who I think are really going to benefit from this, were working for multiple employers and then lost their pension, or their pension was drastically reduced, and it was just put aside. It was just put aside and ignored. It's right in the bill now. Those people are going to get compensated. They're not going to forget about that, because we, the Democrats, and Joe Biden didn't forget about them. And I think that is going to help. And by the way, Jim, you're right. I didn't want to ignore that. It is disconcerting to me how the number of folks, and on the one hand, it's a great thing, because we're building our community, we're building houses, people are moving in, values are going up, and that's all wonderful. But from a political perspective, it does become a challenge, because people that move in from Illinois, particularly from Cook County, have a feeling that they were not just ignored by the Democratic Party on the other side of the border, but were mistreated by the Democratic Party for a number of reasons.
And many of them are, you know, former policemen and teachers and
firemen,
and they had long been part of the Democratic establishment. And I know I got 3 or 4 guys. I'm like, you know, they're like, I can't even think about Democratic politics because they feel they got screwed so badly on the Illinois side. And that to me is going to be I mean, you're talking droves of people coming right now. You know, you're involved in some of that development.
I am, yeah.
Hey, we got more calls, okay? Let's move. 219-845-1100. This is not the party show anymore. It's just me wanting to talk about things. Hey, you're on the air.
Well, it's good. I want to make my point again. I was a Democrat, Jim, MX, and I voted Obama twice, and this is why I left the party. Because, you know, the last 40 years of Democrats, you had Bill Clinton support NAFTA. You had Obama pushing Trans-Pacific Partnership. And Trump was our only hope. If Trump didn't get rid of Trans-Pacific Partnership, Cleveland Cliffs wouldn't have bought ArcelorMittal. And this is something you got to work on and get back, but it doesn't look like that with the House Resolution Bill 1820, where it's more or less defunding police, written by Mervyn. I mean, it's a Jerry Nadler bill, okay, sponsored by Mervyn, that's going to defund police. So this is what you're fighting against.
All right, thank you. I can't, that's too big, but I do want to address one thing part of there, okay? I don't know how this happens, but Frank Mervan is a freshman congressman. He's on national TV yesterday. They don't do that.
I know.
You know, and there's people that are probably miffed in some other high union that why is this freshman from Northwest Indiana skipping right over me out of Cleveland or wherever? And he's just kind of had a reasonably meteoric rise. He's a head of a committee, joint head of a committee that spends, I don't know, $20 billion or whatever. But yesterday he was on national TV, and he spoke on national TV twice, basically, once in front of the House and then once at the press conference. They didn't send out the president. They sent out 2 freshman congressmen and then, of course, some of the more seasoned people. Frank was right there. What does that, the Frank Mervan effect, mean for your party?
Well, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. Look, politics is relational. Politics is people. It's one-on-one. It's winning people over. And let me tell you, when you have a congressman that is featured like that as a freshman congressman, it bodes incredibly well for our area. Couple that with the potential that we have in Indiana of having Mike Schmull as our chairman, the potential of him with his national contacts, with his ability to raise money and his organizational skills, tied in with the Secretary of Transportation, who's from Indiana, who was from South Bend, a mayor in South Bend that became Secretary of Transportation, and add on top of that, the Chief of Staff of Joe Biden is Ron Klain, born and raised in Indiana, central Indiana, but born and raised in Indiana. Those things matter. Those relationships matter because you can open doors that you wouldn't be able to open beyond that. And for Frank to have such a high profile in Congress at such an early stage of his career, it can't be anything but beneficial to Northwest Indiana.
219-845-1100. You guys are doing a great job today. Hey, you're on the air with Jim Weiser. Final call.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd say the wisecrack on why Frank was put up there. It might have been because he could explain why he voted for men to be in women's sports to kick his kids' keisters when they get in school. But my question, Jim, is who downstate put forward, at least in an attempt, to hijack the profit rate that McDermott has on his water selling it to Illinois? Because he did say very clear that a bill was placed on the gentleman's from Valpo's desk, and that guy told, I can't remember his name, but that guy told McDermott, and the bill was designed to remove McDermott's ability to profit from selling water to the state of Illinois, which then would virtually destroy a regular, let's say, marketable water rate for Griffith, Highland, Munster, etc., because he would then virtually have to not only maybe quadruple the rates, he would have to take those rates up to 20 to 30 times higher.
All right, you got the question, and this is an...
Who made the bill, and let's not lie.
All right, thank you.
I could talk about it, but when no bill ever appeared, it's pretty hard to say who made the bill. There was talk about it. I've heard it. I don't deny it. It was Ed Soliday is the Republican legislator from over in Porter County, and a leader in the General Assembly. There's been all kinds of rumors that float around and all kinds of information that floated around. But because no bill ever appeared, I don't know how to comment on it because there was no bill. There was talk about it.
Let me put it into context, okay?
Yeah.
All right, this is a larger context that I think you have had recently. I'm going to do Democrats and Republicans, okay? You have had recently Adam Cedia and another candidate have had some non-self-addressed stamped envelopes that go out to people. You had Chris Cantar running for the judgeship. Secret information coming out. No one's taken accountable for it. And it is sent out and basically removes Adam Cedia from the running, and Chris Cantar gets that job. Right here, Adrian Santos, certainly on the rise, but he had a pretty viable candidate and some against him. Some information went out to reportedly to the precinct committee people. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows who was in the background there and who the boogeyman was. Now let's go to the Republican side. You got two things going on. They want to change the way that judges are picked. No more minority representation on the board or anything like that. Mike Aylesworth says, the governor wants it. The governor says, no, this is not what I want. Mike Aylesworth, this Republican guy, says, hey, it's our county chairman's behind it. I haven't gotten to talk to him, but I got to believe that Dan Darnell's not going to say we have crappy judges around here. So on both sides, something's going on. Who's behind these two pushes here in Northwest Indiana on the Republican side? Is there a boogeyman that wants to move this legislation and take this money out of Hammond? Is there a boogeyman that wants to change the way that judges are picked for a specific reason? And on the Democratic side, why are we going back to our old ways of doing that? Jim Weiser, you know how things worked in East Chicago. All of these tactics are straight out of East Chicago. I think that's what he's talking about. There's people in the shadows, and is that a danger to Northwest Indiana?
Is it a danger? I'll tell you what. It's not new. As we all know, it becomes part of sometimes the process and part of the culture that goes into disputes and disagreements that occur. Occur on a political and a governmental basis. I certainly don't condone it. On the other hand, one of the things I've been able to do as chairman of the party is I can kind of rise above it because I'm not an elected official. I don't have a vested interest in anything. I have a vested interest in electing Democrats and in making it a strong party. But I have no vested interest in water rates or sewer rates or running for the people that are clashing and running for office. The underhanded or the behind-the-scenes kind of activity that takes place in American political history has been part and parcel of the whole process. It's just the nature of the beast and the nature of our human instincts is every once in a while someone's out there and figures the best way I can get to this if I'm upset about one particular issue is to nail them on another issue. It's not the way I do business. I don't condone it. I've never done business like that, but I recognize that it exists. So what I do is I just keep my antenna up and I try to hear what I hear and in relationship to, I can't really speak on the Republican side, although I can say that Dan and I talked about that. Dan Darnell and I talked about that judicial bill because that's horrible. That judicial bill is horrendous and the governor didn't want it. You know, that's all, come on. We all know that isn't where that emanated from. It emanated locally. I don't know who or how, but I know it emanated locally. I mean, and for Mike Aylesworth, and I love Mike Aylesworth. He was a county commissioner, and we were on NERPC for 7 or 8 years together. I love the guy. But keep your nose out of this business, Mike. You don't know anything about it. You're a farmer who's from southern Porter County who says, hey, I know what's best for the way you elect judges in Lake County. Give me a break. That's just kind of, let me kind of close with this. I've said this before. Otto von Bismarck was the famous individual who said the two things you don't ever want to see made are sausage and laws. I happen to come from a family that made sausage and cut meat. And so all I've done my whole life is either cut meat or make laws. And there's a lot of similarity between the two. Legislation can be a tough game, a brutal game. And you got to filter out the junk, the stuff that doesn't really mean anything, and really get down to what's important. And I think that's what happened, by the way, in that bill that was floated, or potential bill that was never filed, about the non-sale of water for Hammond. It was out there, and smarter people and more ethical people put it aside and said, it ain't going to happen. We're going to do what we're going to do. So I think ultimately that's kind of how we handle it.
Do you believe that Dan Darnell was behind the Aylesworth bill?
No, I do
not. So where's
not.
it coming from?
Well, I'm not sure I know where it comes from on the Republican side. I trust Dan Darnell implicitly.
And he says that he's not the one behind it.
And he's not. He's not. Dan's a smart chairman. He's a smart county councilman. He's a moderate. He works with everybody. That is not Dan's style at all. Dan doesn't do that. But
this Aylesworth guy says, oh, the governor wants this. The governor says, I don't want this. And then he says the county chairman, and he's invoked the county chairman, and now you're telling me that Dan Darnell doesn't want it. Where's it coming from?
Well, by the way,
who would really want to get the way that judges are changed right now? Why is it so crucial to use that political capital? So you're saying it emanates locally.
It emanates.
So we have a group of some on the Democratic side, people sending out old East Chicago tactics. Right. And on the Republican side, we have some people behind the curtain also. What we're doing, Jim, is that we're reverting to type.
Yeah, and that's not where we want to be, and that's not where we ought to be. And where it emanates, I mean, as a lawyer, I know that there's been in my profession, there's been some dissatisfaction, not with how the process is set up, because I think most of us all agree that it's a good process and we've had good judges selected compared to when I first started practicing law, and you don't even want to go there. The judiciary was so
don't go to court in the afternoon.
Don't go in the afternoon.
Ken Reed all the time,
and you could hear it from me. I wouldn't go to court in the afternoon. In two of the courts back then, you couldn't go to court in the afternoon, but there was some dissatisfaction in our profession with how it was being implemented, not that the process wasn't right, that the process wasn't being used effectively and used correctly. Maybe it emanated out of that. I don't know, because I'm not directly involved in the process. I'm obviously more involved in the politics of things and the governing of things. But I strongly believe that it emanated from several dissatisfied people who had some influence with a legislator.
So you're saying that it could be like some local Republicans who may have influenced Mike Aylesworth? But why would Aylesworth say, hey, it's the governor, hey, it's Dan Darnell, and it's not?
Well, that's
why would, I mean, these are things, I mean, I need to ask the guy.
Well, I'll tell you what I think. I'll tell you why. Because Mike Aylesworth became the messenger, and he didn't know the message. He had no idea what the message was. He carried the water for somebody, and he got caught in the switches, because then he started to get, I think he thought this might be not, I don't think he thought it would be as controversial as it was. Then he starts getting asked the hard questions. He can't answer them because he doesn't know what goes on with the judiciary in Lake County. And he's just worried about, tilling the farm and the North 40. And he says, well, the governor wanted it. And the governor says, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't want it. Well, the county, by the way, when he said the county chairman, he didn't say the Republican county chairman. I started getting calls you wouldn't believe. I said, what are you talking about? Because they thought I was somehow involved. I said, oh, no. That's on that side of the aisle. I just think he was trying to cover for how he ended up becoming the carrier of a bill that he knew nothing about. I think that's a problem.
That bill's going to pass, right? Or it already did, right? Where is that bill?
No, the last I knew, and I talk a lot to Mike Tolbert, because Mike is our election board attorney. I hired Mike 4 years ago as the election board attorney, but Mike's also the president of the Indiana State Bar Association, and he spends an inordinate amount of time down there. And the last I knew, it had passed out of the House. It was in the Senate. It looked like it had favorable support in the Senate. I know they had a committee hearing on it, and I haven't heard anything since then.
From what I understand, if Mike Aylesworth wants it, he's going to get it. But you see, here's the point, and thanks for staying around, because you and I have both been here a long time, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I believe that one of the biggest impediments, you do a lot of civil and a lot of business development and that kind of stuff. One of the biggest impediments to what we've done over the many years is that we squabble amongst ourselves and that we operate in the shadows. And if the Democratic Party has somebody operating in the shadows, sending out these character assassination things, and the Republican Party has a group operating in the shadows, who knows what for what reason, we're doing what we always have. And then that falls, forgive me for bringing you in here, but that falls on you and Dan Darnell. These people are operating in the shadows in your party, and we don't know. We don't know who they are or what they're doing. If you ask me, that hurts us. We're ready. We're on the cusp of a major breakthrough in revitalization of Lake County, and then we have these guys in the shadows still doing their same old thing.
Yeah, I'd like to talk at great length about that if I could. And it's frustrating, but I mean, there's only so much you could control and only so much influence that you could have in order to tamp that down. It doesn't happen with the frequency and regularity that it happened with 20, 25, 30 years ago. But it is frustrating and upsetting that it's happening now for a variety of reasons, because it impacts legislation, because it impacts the reputation of good people that, that could be very beneficial to our party in the future. And then I have to come along and try to salvage keeping that individual or those people in our party and working in our party, because they've just gotten whacked in the face really hard. And it isn't easy. It isn't easy. We succeeded in that one particular issue in our party. On the Republican side, I feel for Dan, because I know Dan wasn't involved in that.
Hey, man.
And I need to get out of here.
You got to go. Hey, Lake County never disappoints. People around, I go to the state convention once every 5 years, and they're always very jealous of all the stuff I have to talk about. Really, I mean, it never stops every day. By the way, we didn't even get to Vernon Smith and Carolyn Jackson.
By the way, real quick, I want you to take this. I wrote an op-ed that I don't think you probably saw that was in the Post-Tribune, because when I heard about what happened downstate, I was just furious. I mean, furious. It's as upset as I've been, because I try to keep an even keel politically. But my God, I don't know a nicer, more civil, respectful man in politics than Vernon Smith. An educator who's respectful, soft-spoken, gets his point across, but soft-spoken, and has been nothing but a joy to work with for me as a chairman for 4 years. And then we get into that crap down in Indianapolis, that all that leftover Trumpism down in Indianapolis, and so I did. Carolyn Jackson and I talked at length, and I ended up writing an op-ed, which I'm going to leave with you, Jim. I heard you and Verley talking about it yesterday, and I said, well, Jim's got to see the op-ed that I wrote, because it was personal to me. This was hard to write because I was so emotional about it. Usually I could sit back and be objective and write some stuff. This really, really rankled me, and you know, the things we're talking about here is child's play compared to what those Republicans are doing downstate. And the citizens in this state and the citizens in Northwest Indiana should not have to put up with that and have to deal with that. So, but I do have it here for your reading pleasure.
I will take it and put it right on top of the commode, and that means I will definitely.
Then I know it'll get read.
Hey, thank you so much, Jim.
All right,
I mean,
Jim.
these are difficult topics at times, but like I said, the Democratic Party gain is WJOB's loss. How's that sound? Thanks a lot,
love
Jim.
it. Thanks, Jim. We'll see ya.
Thank you. All right. Oh, hold on. Don't put that down yet. Go ahead. You're clear now. All right. That's going to do it for me. We're going to go with Think Parks is up next on the Voice and Face of the Region, and I'm going to end this and start a new one. So let's do it. On the video. You guys give me so much